Hello my bookish friends, welcome or welcome back. My name is Elizabeth, this is Reading Riley, and today we are going to be exploring some interesting books which will be coming out in the second quarter of 2022. I'm ever so thankful that you're here with me today, and I can't wait to discuss these books. What if I did this whole video in that accent? I'm sorry to all my British friends. I don't even know what it was. Was it English? Someone tell me. Alright, I want to talk about books that are coming out that I'm excited for, that are being released in the second quarter of 2022. So that is April, May, and June. So we have 3 months worth of releases. I'm going to tell you about them in order. I'm going to pop the covers up here with the dates on them so you can take a screenshot if you like. I'm also going to separate this into chapters so you can easily guide through it at your leisure if you like. I do this every quarter. If you missed the first one for 2022 for Q1, I will link that down below. And also if you're interested in finding out the books that are coming out in Q3 and Q4 for this year, hit that subscribe button because it's coming. With that all being said, let's go ahead and get into the books. Most of these are thriller and horror books because that is where my interest lies. However, there are a few sci-fi books in here, a few romance books. So we have a good amount of variety, I guess. All right. The first book I want to discuss is called Fool Me Once. This is by Ashley Winstead. Comes out April 5th. This is a romance. I have read one book by her, her debut that came out last year, In My Dreams I Hold a Knife, and I loved it, so I'm interested in whatever she's writing. She also has a thriller coming out in Q3, so that'll be in my next anticipated release videos. Okay, so we're following Lee Stone. She is the communications director at a women-run electric car company, similar to Tesla. During the day, she's this badass boss bitch. At night, she goes by Stoner. She throws back in the bars. She can drink the guys under the table. She takes them home, but she never connects with them. She's got some daddy issues. She's got some issues from some of her past boyfriends. One of those exes was her grad school boyfriend, Ben, who she thought cheated on him, and so she retaliated, but turned out that he didn't actually cheat on her, and she fucked up. Ben shows back up into the picture because current day Ben is the policy expert for the most liberal politician in Texas history. So when Lee figures out that he's working with this politician and she's trying to get this clean energy bill passed, they end up having to work together. They fall in love. The tension builds just as old sparks reignite. So yeah, that one sounds good. I have 3 books that are coming out on April 12th. The first one that I want to talk about is Insomnia by Sarah Pinborough. She wrote Behind Her Eyes, which is almost like, for thriller lovers, I feel like it's modern classic. It's like neoclassic thriller at this point. It's one of those stories that has this twist that you could never see coming, and if you haven't read it yet, go for it. There's a great adaptation for it too. So I'm interested to see what this is all about. We're following Emma. She has a high-powered legal career, another boss bitch. She has 2 beautiful children, a stay-at-home husband, she loves them, her life is perfect. But she's got a past, and I think we're gonna find that a lot of these books deal with secret pasts, and I think that's pretty much thrillers in general. When she was young, when her mom turned 40, she started dealing with some mental health issues. When Emma thinks back at her childhood and her mother in general, she just sees her mother as a monster. She is terrified that she's going to become her mother. Emma is now pushing 40 and she can't sleep. She's dealing with insomnia. She starts to lose time. She starts to show symptoms that her mother was showing when she first started going through this change, whatever it may be. So I'm interested. I think we're gonna have an unreliable narrator perhaps, probably going to have a mental health reliant trope, which depending on how it's done does not bother me, but it does bother some people. So we'll see. I'm very intrigued by this. On the 12th as well, we have The New Neighbor by Carter Wilson. I don't know this author, but this sounded really good to me. And apparently, I think this is a standalone book, but it has some crossover characters from another one of their books. And this is following Aiden, who wins the Powerball numbers. Aiden's very superstitious. He's been playing the same numbers for 15 years, and he finally won. He's ecstatic about that. However, the day he wins is the same day of his wife's funeral. So he can't really enjoy it because his wife has just died, obviously. But this presents an opportunity for him and his twin children to move, start over, get a new house. So they do so. They get this beautiful house, they move in, but it's not long before Aiden realizes that somebody is watching him and his family very closely. Someone who knows exactly who they are, where they came from, and what they're trying to hide. So what are they trying to hide? And I'm assuming this has some kind of connection to the death of his wife, but who knows? Sounds intriguing. I'm interested. The next book I'm interested in, it comes out on April 12th as well. This is a horror book. It's called And Then I Woke Up by Malcom Devlin. This one sounds really interesting to me. It sounds like it's going to have a lot of social commentary going on here. Off the bat, Stephen Graham Jones says this is a scathing portrait of the world we live in and a running commentary on what's story, what's truth, and what's not. So just based on that, I'm already down. Definitely want to read this. This could be a 5-star prediction for me. There's this very unusual plague that's happening, and monsters lurk in the streets. The terrified survivors of these monsters are roaming in packs throughout the countryside, but this plague affects the way that we perceive reality. So is that really happening, or is that not happening? We're following Spence, who is one of the cured. He's living in this rehabilitation facility, and he's haunted by guilt. Apparently he's done some terrible things. He refuses to face the changed world until a new inmate convinces him to help her find her old crew. But if he can't tell the truth from the lies, how is he gonna know if he is redeeming himself or if he is making things worse? I don't know this author. If this is written well, this could be really, really good. So I'm excited for that. On April 26th, we have The Children on the Hill. This is by Jennifer McMahon. This is said to be genre-defying and also said to be loosely based on Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. So a lot of discussion about monsters in here. We have a dual timeline, first in 1978 Vermont, where we're following a brilliant psychiatrist, Dr. Helen Hildreth. She has 2 grandchildren who live with her at home. She's not this doctor, she's just Gran. One day, Gran brings home another child to stay with the family. This new girl is kind of weird. She's very shy, she's introverted. But I guess the kids become fast friends. They start to show this new girl about the monsters that seemingly lurk everywhere. They have a club called the Monster Club. They catalog different kinds of monsters, dream up ways to defeat them, and then they hunt them. Flash forward to 2019, we're following Lizzie Shelley, who is a host of a podcast called Monsters Among Us. She is traveling to Vermont where a girl has been abducted, and then also there's been a monster sighting in this town that has everyone in an uproar. Lizzie's determined to hunt down this monster because she knows more than anyone that monsters are in fact real because her sister is one. So we've got a podcast element, we've got a dual timeline, which I typically like. I know Jennifer McMahon is a great writer, so we'll see how this one goes. Next on the 26th as well, we have An Honest Lie by Tarryn Fisher. I think I've read one of her books and I don't remember it, but I know her writing can be sometimes divisive. This is kind of a wild card for me, so we'll see. We're following Rainey. Rainey lives at the top of Tiger Mountain. Do I know what Tiger Mountain is? No, absolutely not. What do I know about it? It's isolated because she's trying to run away from her past. Wow! What a surprise! She's running from a secret past. Rainey reluctantly agrees to a girls' weekend with her girlfriends in Las Vegas. And when they get there, they're partying the night away. But then her friend Braith doesn't come back to the hotel room. And she's like, where the fuck is Braith? Then she gets a text message from Braith's phone saying, basically, we have your friend. Come get her if you want her to live. They don't want Braith, they want Rainey. So they stole Braith to get their hands on Rainey, and she has to face her past. Wow. And she has to face her past in order to save both of their lives. That's the general gist. That is all the books for April. Let's move on to May. I have 2 books that are coming out on May 3rd, the first of which is The Hacienda. This one sounds really good. It's compared to Mexican Gothic meets Rebecca. So it's definitely going to be a Gothic story. It is set in Mexico, I believe, and we're following Beatrice. There's been an overthrow to the Mexican government. Beatrice's father has been killed, her home destroyed. So when she gets a proposal from Don Rodolfo Solorzano, she ignores the rumors surrounding his first wife's demise and says yes, because she needs a home. She's in a desperate situation. She says, okay, let's do it, Don Rodolfo. But when she arrives at Hacienda San Isidro, something's not right. Something's a little bit off there. She's having visions, she's hearing voices in her sleep, and it seems like these invisible eyes are following her everywhere she goes. Rodolfo's sister Juana scoffs at her when she says that there's something weird going on, but at the same time, Juana won't come into the house in the nighttime. There's also some, like, the cook does some, like, weird stuff with symbols over the doorways. Like, everybody knows something that she doesn't know, and she can't find any allies until she meets this young priest who is the only one who's going to help her. Coincidentally, is very skilled at witchcraft. So what does this have to do with witchcraft? I don't know, but I'm intrigued. I hope this is as gory as Mexican Gothic was. I loved that about Mexican Gothic, that it had that, like, body horror and all of the, like, descriptions that were just disgusting. So I hope that's part of this, but either way, this sounds like a really good book. Also on the 3rd, we have another romance book. This is Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I like Emily Henry a lot, so I'm very excited for this one. Of course, this is about books too. If you want to catch the interest of anybody who reads books, write about books. It's that simple. Emily Henry knows this. She's a smart cookie, so she's written a book about books. So we have Nora Stevens. Her life is books. She doesn't consider herself the typical romance heroine. She's not plucky, she's not spunky, she's not a sweetheart. She tends to be very cutthroat, especially when it comes to her clients, because she is a literary agent. And the only time she's super sweet is if her clients need it or her little sister needs something from her. She loves her little sister, Libby. And Libby convinces her to go on this sister getaway to North Carolina for a month. On this trip, Nora has convinced herself that she needs to become the heroine of her own story. So she's starting over. It's like a fresh start for her. Then she bumps into Charlie Lastra. This is not the first time she's meeting Charlie. He is a brooding editor from back in the city. Why is he there? Why are they both there? I don't know. But Nora and Charlie keep bumping into each other in these ridiculous coincidences that just keep happening over and over again, and then they fall in love. On May 10th, I have Hidden Pictures by Jason Rekulak. I don't know who this author is, but this book sounds really good. We're following Mallory Quinn. She's fresh out of rehab. She gets a job as a nanny in an affluent suburb of New Jersey for Ted and Caroline Maxwell. She is babysitting their son, Teddy. Teddy's 5 years old. He's a bit of an artist. He always has a sketch pad and a pencil, and he's always drawing, you know, like flowers, trees, just simple 5-year-old kid shit. Until one day he starts drawing this really detailed picture of a woman being dragged away in a forest. His drawings are becoming more and more sinister. They're becoming more and more detailed beyond what a 5-year-old should be able to draw. And Mallory seems to think there's a connection between what he's drawing and an unsolved murder that happened in the woods behind this house many years ago. So she doesn't know if there's something supernatural happening in these woods that is potentially sending her a sign through Teddy, but she thinks Teddy's in danger. And she teams up with a handsome landscaper and an eccentric neighbor in order to decipher the images that Teddy is drawing and figure out what happened. And apparently she's got some kind of tangled past as well. What do you know? What a surprise. That one sounds really good to me. I'm very excited for that. Next, on May 17th, we have Just Like Mother by Anne Helzel. First of all, this cover is gorgeous. I mean, what more could you want from a horror book than a cover like this? I think it's horror. It could be thriller. I'm honestly not sure. And this has to do with cults. Some kind of cult. We're following Maeve. The last time she saw her cousin Andrea was when she escaped the cult that they were raised in 2 decades ago. Maeve left for New York City to start a life of her own, and she's very reclusive. She separates herself from people in general. She just likes to be by herself. She doesn't have any strong connections. She's trying to get away from her past. When Andrea suddenly reappears, she's excited to have her best friend back. They're cousins, they're best friends, and she starts spending more and more time with Andrea, but the time that she's spending with Andrea is making her memories come back of the time that she lived in the cult, and so it's putting her in kind of a sensitive position. Andrea apparently got really wealthy working in fertility, and so all of her friends kind of judge Maeve for living this single lifestyle, but she's like, you know what, it's expected, it comes with the territory. It says, the cousin's increasing attachment triggers memories Maeve has fought so hard to bury, but confronting the terrors of her childhood may be the only way for Maeve to transcend the nightmare still to come. Yeah, That sounds good. Again on the 17th, we have My Summer Darlings. This is by Cobb. She wrote The Hunting Wives last year, which I still have not read, which sounds actually really similar to this one. It's about a bunch of rich Texan women who are bitches. I'm gonna give it a shot. We'll see. It seems like a summer read, like a poolside read. You know what this actually reminds me of is the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. We're in the South, we have a group of women's, there's a new man that comes in town that intrigues them. Although I don't think there's gonna be a vampire in this one, but you never know. Jen, Kitty, and Cynthia. They are approaching 40. They spent their days in East Texas, drinking wine in the afternoons, talking shit about the other mothers, complaining about their ungrateful teenagers, etc. And then this guy, Will Harding, moves into the neighborhood and he is charming and he's interesting and they all have some kind of interest in him. And as the relationships with him start to intertwine, they all start becoming more and more obsessed. And then they find out that he is not who they thought he was. I think that's the general gist of this. What they'll uncover is far more sinister and deadly than any of them could have imagined. So yeah, again, sounds interesting. On May 24th, we have Hide by Kiersten White. This is horror and this really reminds me of Squid Games. So if you watch Squid Games, this might interest you as well. If you watched it and liked it, I guess. If you didn't like it, then it might not. This is set in an abandoned amusement park. There's a challenge. You have to spend a week hiding, and if you don't get caught, you win a ridiculous amount of money, life-changing amount of money. We are following Mac. She thinks she's got this in the bag because she is really good at hiding. That is the only reason that she's alive and her family is not, because she's good at hiding. As the people around her start disappearing one by one, she realizes that this game is a lot more sinister than she originally might have thought. The only way out might be for all of them to band together. 14 competitors, 7 days, everywhere to hide, but nowhere to run. I'm excited for this one. I think this might be another 5-star prediction. I'm just gonna start pointing out ones that I think are gonna be 5 stars for me. On May 31st, we have something a little bit different. This is called A Rip Through Time by Kelley Armstrong. This is a debut novel. I'm intrigued. It does have some sci-fi elements, sci-fi mystery elements to it. To me, it seems like this is like a crime detective book mixed with Outlander, mixed with The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. Hear me out. In 2019, homicide detective Mallory, she is in Scotland, in Edinburgh, visiting her dying grandmother. She's out taking a run one night and she hears this woman scream off in the distance, and then she runs to see what's up and she ends up being attacked and strangled, passes out, loses consciousness. Second timeline, 1869, Scotland. We're following Catriona Mitchell, who is a housemaid and she's got a day off. So she's just kind of like enjoying her day off, and then she ends up strangled in an alleyway in the exact same spot that Mallory was attacked. Mallory then wakes up and she is in Catriona's body. In 1869, she has to put her detective skills to work in order to figure out how to get back to 2019. She discovers that as a housemaid, her boss, who moonlights as a medical examiner, has just taken on a case. A young man has been strangled and she thinks this is somehow connected to her own case. If this is well done, could be really good. We'll see. On the 31st of May as well, we have The Favor by Nora Murphy. This one is kind of reminding me of A Kind Worth Killing by Peter Swanson. But not, but yes, but not. This is a domestic suspense. It says it explores with compassion and depth what can happen when women pushed to the limit take matters into their own hands. So we're following two women, Leah and McKenna. They have very similar lives. They've never once met, but they're basically living these parallel lives. They're both really wealthy women. They both go to the same places. Maybe their paths have crossed on multiple occasions. Who knows? Laura knows that what's happening inside her home is a lot more dangerous than what's happening on the outside of her home. I assume there's some domestic abuse happening. One day, Laura is driving around and happens to peek into McKenna's window and realizes that she and McKenna have a lot more in common than she thought, and she intervenes, hence The Favor. I think she's gonna do something for McKenna that she maybe hoped somebody would do for herself, and it's probably gonna blow up in her face. So we'll see what happens. It sounds interesting. I'm definitely intrigued by this. That's it for May. Let's move on to June. On June 1st, is another one of my most anticipated. This is Under Her Care by Lucinda Berry. I read The Perfect Child not too long ago by her and fell in love with her writing style. Loved the book. It was dark. It was gritty. It was so well written, so perfectly put together and woven. The plot was amazing. I was just so happy with it, so I'm very excited for this one to come out. This is said to explore the disturbing complexities of a mother's love and the deadly consequences of unraveling family secrets. Set in Alabama, the mayor's wife is found dead, murdered. Standing over her body is a 14-year-old Mason Hill, who is the autistic son of the former Miss USA Genevieve Hill. The locals see this kid, he's different, he's not like everybody else, he obviously is the murderer. They are not giving him a chance in hell. He is condemned, like, immediately. He was at the scene, end of story, guilty. So the town detective calls in a local autism expert, Casey Walker, to consult on the case. The more time she spends with Genevieve, the more unsettled she's feeling about Mason being guilty. And then she also discovers that Genevieve has a 19-year-old daughter with some pretty dark secrets as well. But as she dives into this case, she discovers another murder, one that shatters her understanding of the human condition in ways that she never imagined. I mean, it's gonna be good. This is also a 5-star prediction, mark my words. On June 7th, we have The Woman in the Library by Sulari Gentile. This, I actually have an arc of, so I'm really excited to get to this. It's giving me Agatha Christie vibes. It's giving me a locked room, isolated setting vibes, set in a library. Okay, hear me out. They're in the ornate reading room at the Boston Library. They hear a woman scream from far away. Security comes in. Nobody move. They instruct everybody to stay put while they figure out what the hell's going on. Turns out there was a murder. While these 4 people are waiting, they're striking up conversation, they're making friends, but one of these people is the killer. I mean, do we need to know anything else? It says, it examines the complicated nature of friendship and shows us that words can be the most treacherous weapon of all. I love that. On the 14th, we have And There He Kept Her by Joshua Moling. I don't know this author. I can't remember who recommended this book. It might have been Beth from Beth's All Books. Either way, this sounds like it could be another 5-star book for me. It sounds really good. So we're following these 2 teenagers at first. They are breaking into this cabin on this remote lake. They're looking for prescription drugs. So they're just doing a B&E, trying to get some drugs and get the fuck out of there. Well, they broke into the wrong house because there's this old man that lives there and he has been hiding something in that house for over 2 decades. And these kids are busting in and he can't have that. So these teenagers, they go missing. Also, we're following former police officer Ben Packard. He has just moved back to his small hometown for a fresh start. He's now a sheriff's deputy. He's leading this investigation into these missing teenagers because of a family connection. As the clues dry up and times run out to save them, he is forced to reveal his own secrets and uncover the deep, dark past of the place that he calls home. So this is what really gets me though. It says it's written with a piercing gaze into the dark depths of the human soul. Wow. Does that sound good or what? And then it says it's a thrilling page turner that introduces readers to a complicated new hero and forces us to consider the true nature of evil, which is what I live for. That is what I live for. Figuring out the true nature of evil. That's it. Can't wait. It's gonna be 5 stars. I feel it. I'm saying it right now. I'm putting it into the ether. This next one sounds really good too. And this one is kind of a romance, but also maybe a thriller as well. I don't know, but it sounds good. So it's called Can't Look Away. This comes out on the 14th. This is by Carola Lovering. It says it's a sexy suspense novel about the kind of addictive, obsessive love that keeps you coming back no matter how hard you try to look away. In 2013, 23-year-old Molly is working as a barista and she wants to be a writer. She goes to this concert. She's in the audience. She looks up at the stage. The lead singer is Jake Danner. They lock eyes and they have this like moment where they're like,
do I love you? Yes, I do. Do you love me? Yes, you do. We are now in love.
Love at first sight. He writes this hit song about her. They have this whirlwind romance. A decade later, Molly is no longer with Jake. She is now married. She's got a child. She's got a husband. She's got this picturesque, perfect life. She's living in the burbs. She's trying to have another baby, but she's having difficulties getting pregnant again. And she's lonely and she's sad. I guess she's not happy with the choices she made. I don't know. Enter Sabrina, who joins one of the yoga classes that Molly is teaching. And when Sabrina starts to divulge her infertility issues to Molly, they bond over that and they have this fast friendship. But it sounds like Sabrina has some secrets as well. I'm guessing Sabrina sought out Molly because she has some kind of connection to her that we don't know about. Also, there's a new version of Jake's song that's been released, and so it's bringing up all of these memories for Molly, and she just can't seem to let him go. What happens when life turns out nothing like we thought it would when we were young and dreaming big? Does growing up mean choosing with your head instead of your heart? And do we ever truly forget our first love? Yeah, it sounds good. Okay, and I have one more. On June 21st, we have The Lies We Tell by Julie Clark. I don't know this author either. This just sounded interesting to me, so we'll see. It says, she's back. Hold on, let me try that again.
Run.
She's back.
Meg Williams, Maggie Littleton, Melody Wild. I don't know. We have all these names. They're all the same person. We're following a con woman. Takes advantage of people. She cons them. She manipulates. She changes every single time in every different environment with every different person. Before you know it, she's taken all of your money and all of your worth and gotten away with it. So we're following her. We're also following Kat, who was conned by this woman and wants her revenge. She's been waiting for her to come back so that she can get her revenge because she lost everything and she's determined to be the one to expose her. Maggie Melody comes back and Kat tries to weasel her way into her life. They become friends. As they start to get closer, Kat's long-held assumptions begin to crumble, leaving her to wonder who Meg's true target actually is. This says it's a twisted domestic thriller that dives deep into the psyches and motivations of two women and their unwavering quest to seek justice for the past and rewrite the future. And that's it. Those are my anticipated books for the second quarter of 2022, April through June. If you liked this video, give it a like down below. Hit that subscribe button, especially if you want to hear more in a couple months for the Q3 anticipated thriller and horror books. That's going to be it for me today. Don't forget that life is short, so read Riley. Cheers and goodbye!